Hi friends, hopefully you can hear me. Let me try to turn this up. Well, hopefully you can hear me. Anyway, thank you for joining me today. It feels like this is the first event that hasn't been canceled in the last 2 weeks. So I'm pretty excited about that. My name is Rebecca and I am the owner of a little home-based business called the Fern, the Snail, and the Wren. And basically what I do is I create taxidermy art of sorts, and I like to give things a second life. So if you've ever been to like a natural history or natural science museum and they have a little diorama with some taxidermy animals or just seashells, things like that, that's really what I like to create with. And then I also like to use and utilize vintage items with my art as well, because I believe in giving things a second life and giving them a second chance. And so, you know, rather than putting those things in a landfill, that's really my mission. So I like creating with vintage stuff. I like creating with natural found art items like those that you would see at a natural science museum. So you are more than welcome to follow me. I am on Facebook and on Instagram. And again, it's at the Fern, the Snail, and the Wren. I know it's a lot to type out, but I love ferns, I love snails, and I love little wrens. So, and you know, in this day and age, you've got plenty of time to type things out, right? So anyway, I want to give a huge thanks to Mooresville Arts for hosting me today. Their mission is really to be an advocate for the artist and also provide, you know, an artistic and cultural resource to our community. We are located just north of Charlotte, so I appreciate them for allowing me to co-host this event. So really, we're just gonna do kind of one thing, but it's like 3 different styles. So you can just pick a style that is gonna resonate with you and run with that. So hopefully you've had time to prep and prepare some of the items that you're going to work with today. But if you haven't, that's fine. No big deal. You know, you can just take notes and you can do it at your own leisure. So this art project is good for any age as well. I know a lot of you have kiddos at home, and so you probably would, you know, enjoy doing that with them. And it's from ages to 5 to 95. So if the grandparents are watching the grandkids, you know, this is kind of a activity that anybody can do. So you'll need 3 basic things, and really maybe just more. Well, yeah, like 3. So the first thing that you will need is to find an old frame. So we all know what frames look like. And you can use anything that you like. Like I said, I prefer vintage stuff. I prefer free. I love free items. So you can, you know, look at, I know Goodwill's not open, but thrift shops, you know, look in your attic, look in your basement, whatever you can do. And hold on, I saw there was a message. I guess that's not worried about that. Anyway, I can't read the message. So, okay, so find you a frame. And then if you want to put something in the frame, you can do that or not. And I'll show you an example of the not. And then also you'll need something to decorate the exterior of the frame with. So on the little post, it said, you know, to go outside and find some found objects, and that's what you would be decorating the frame with. So, okay. First things first, so I'll show you the 3 different examples of what we're gonna do. And this is a huge example. So we're going to do a smaller version of this. This would be kind of the first example. So what I did with this one is I took a frame, I put something inside of the frame. It was actually a page out of a children's pop-up book. And then I just put dried botanicals around it. So I used moss and pine cones and just things I found outside, and I glued it down. So that's the first example. And the second example is, so that one, there was no glass in the frame. It was just the book page. This one's also a book page, but it is behind the glass. So this is the second example. And you can see it's got a page behind the glass, and I just added some dried botanicals and a paper butterfly. And then I put some stuff up in the corner. And again, I used moss and I used dried roses. And I'll show you examples of all of that. And then the third thing, the third example is literally a more natural history type of thing. It's kind of like a frame terrarium. So what I did was I painted a picture frame. I painted the glass and all. And then I added the different found objects to it. So there's like a lotus pod, a deer antler, a little seashell, some quail eggs, and all different kinds of stuff. So that's the last one that we'll go over. So without further ado, let's get started. The frame that I'm using today is a frame that I bought at IKEA, and I think it was like a 6-pack for probably $2 or something. I took the glass out of it. I see that we had a message. I'm not sure how to help you. It was from Debbie, I believe. There was a message about seeing the picture but not seeing the live post, and I'm not sure how to help you. So I apologize for that. Maybe somebody at Mooresville Arts can help you with that. But I know that this post will be on their page. So if you can't view it live right at this second, when it's finished, you will be able to see it on their little Facebook feed, and you can click on it and watch it at another date. So sorry I can't help you right now. I don't know. I usually use Instagram more than Facebook, to be honest. So, okay, back with this. So I used just an ordinary frame from IKEA, and I spray painted it. And you all know what spray paint looks like. It's basic. The reason why I love spray paint so much is because it's super affordable. Like, you can get spray paint for $4 or $5 or $6. It comes in an array of colors, and the reason I love using it is because you can spray all 4 corners of the picture frame, let it dry for like an hour, flip it over, spray it all again, let it dry, and within just a few hours you're good to go. And it has super even coverage. And that's why I'm obsessed with using spray paint. I think it works so well. Like I said, affordable, good coverage. You can find it anywhere. I mean, it's available literally at any hardware store and, Walmart. So I just spray painted the frame. And then what I did was I took a page from a children's book, and pop-up books are my favorite. Like, I love pop-up books. I'm 41 and I still love pop-up books, okay? And so what I did was I just cut the page to fit the frame. So when you open it, you have a little surprise. So it's kind of making it interactive as well. You don't have to do this. I mean, you could use a page, you could use anything. But I just thought this was really cool because, with books, you might read them once a month, and this is something that you could put on your desk and just look at, you know, every day. So, and I think kids would enjoy it too, being that, you know, it's something they can see and it's interactive. So what I did, like I said, I just cut it to fit the frame. There were some pieces left over that I didn't want to waste, so I attached those to the frame as well. So you can see this little flower. It's just on there. I just glued it onto the frame, but the stem lines up with the stem on the page. And then in this corner, I just added another little flower that was on that same page of the book. So I added just a couple of things to the frame already. I'm gonna get some lemonade because with this pandemic, I haven't had to talk a lot. This is the first time I've had to even talk in like a week, so my throat's already parched. Anyway, back to the show. Okay, so we have our first little frame. So now we're going to add to it, okay? So we've added the little things we've wanted to add to from the book. So now we're going to add some of our natural items. So, one thing that I thought might look kind of cool is if I added just a regular old stick to the side, and then I was going to add on to that. So to make it more, you know, my aesthetic, because I have a specific aesthetic, as we've seen. I like dead butterflies and stuff. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. So we're going to take just an ordinary stick and we're going to paint it so that it looks more aesthetically pleasing with the picture that we have here. So all I took was some acrylic paint, and it's quick drying, it's super easy cleanup. So I just picked, you know, chose a color that would kind of correlate with the colors that I had. And we'll take my stick. Who thought sticks were gonna be this cool looking? You just wait and see. And so we're just going to, if you're gonna be painting sticks, I recommend not using your good brushes. It's a pro tip from me. Definitely use a brush that you're not sad about losing. I'll be honest, if you don't do a lot of painting and stuff, you could use other things too that you find around the house. If you had an old makeup brush, like a you know, eyeshadow brush or something, you could use that. You could use Q-tips. You could even use like your finger, wrap it in a paper towel and just wipe it on there. You know, it's just as easy. So I painted most of my little stick blue. And then if you want to jazz it up even more, because I mean, solid blue, it's cool, but it's not that cool. We can jazz it up even further. So I got something that I really enjoyed. I bought these at Cheap Joe's Art Stuff. They're closed right now, unfortunately. They're still available. You know, you can still purchase things. Oh, hi, Debbie. Oh, good, she found it. Okay, so Debbie found the link, everybody. Awesome, thank you. Because I sure as heck didn't know what to tell you, so awesome, good deal. Okay, so back to this. So Cheap Joe's Art Stuff, they had these pigment, powdered pigments is what they're called. And it's basically just powdered paint. And I'll show you, hopefully you'll be able to see. So I just like tap some out in the lid. And then while your paint is still wet, take another brush, dip it in the pigment, and just tap it on there. And it just adds this really cool, hopefully you can see it, this cool shimmer. And I just kind of do it haphazardly. I think that's why I like my art the best. First of all, art has no rules anyway. But I think that's why I really enjoy doing my art so much, is because you can make it messy, and if you screw up, you can just cover it with something else. Easy peasy. We don't sweat stuff anymore, right? Like, we're not gonna sweat things. So I put some powdered pigment on there, and I'm using a rose gold because my frame was hot pink. It was that magenta color, and I just thought that it would kind of look nice. So you can kind of see what I've done there. If you don't have the powdered pigment, again, don't fret. You can get creative and use stuff that you do have around the house. You could even use, I mean, ask permission first, but whoever it belongs to, you could even use some makeup, like some old blush or some old eyeshadow that you have around the house that you're not using anymore. Just, you know, powder it on there. You could also use, if you had a cool nail color, some nail polish that you wanted to use, you could just dab that on there. Again, if you didn't have a brush, you could use a Q-tip, or you could use a sponge and just kind of sponge it on there. And again, just do it haphazardly. Like, mine doesn't look fancy at all. Whatever you want to do. But then let that dry, and then what I do is I spray it with like a clear coat of spray, because you know I love my spray paint. I said that. So I have one here that I've already done. So you can see I finished that this morning, and then I did a little like clear coat, because with this powdered pigment, it does fall off pretty easily, so you do need to seal it. And then what I think I'm gonna do is just, it sits on there pretty well, so I think I'm gonna glue it on right there. Now let's talk about glue for a second. Every item I make, because I do sell my items, I sell them at, you know, markets, craft fairs, things like that. Every item that I sell, I use this E6000. I love it. It's clear, it's got a permanent bond. There's some room to play with. Like, if I set this on here and I don't like it, I can move it around pretty easily to get it to where I do want. So I just love the E6000. But for the live demo example, I'm going to be using hot glue, which hot glue guns aren't my favorite. They have their place, but hot glue, I just feel like it's too stringy, and it's a very, very quick bond. You don't have time to, you know, like change it. And it can just be kind of messy, but for today's sake, we're gonna use hot glue. So hopefully it's ready here, and we'll glue her down. And on my little stick here, I just did one side because no one's going to see the other side of my stick anyway. It's going to be, you know, up against the wall or whatever. So you don't need to get too fancy. Okay, we'll need that again in a second. But as you can see, we're all glued on with our painted stick that we found outside. Everyone thinks I'll go outside for a hike and I'll find a cool stick and I'll pick it up and they'll be like, you don't need that stick. And I'm like, yes, I do. It's art and I need it. Okay. So then for the next thing, what we'll do, I'm going to add a couple of little flowers. And again, just for the sake of time, I'm not really going to do it all the way. Here's where, if my mom is watching, she's going to be like, hey, those are my flowers. She's going to realize I stole her dried floral bouquet, okay? So she had this elaborate vase full of dried flowers sitting on her kitchen, like in the corner in her kitchen. And now is about the time when she's going to say, hey, you stole those from me. So anyway, I took these little flowers from my mom, and there's a really cool farm. There's a farm in Statesville. If you're local, if you're watching this and you're local, it's in Statesville. It's called Howard Family Farm, and you can go and pick a whole bunch of flowers. It's like $20. So that's usually what I do, is I go and I get a whole bucket of flowers, and then I enjoy them, and then as they're on their way out, instead of just tossing them outside, tip them upside down and tie them with some twine and just put them on like a coat hanger and hang it in your closet and just let them dry in your closet. You could tip them upside down in a bucket of sand. That works too. I think people have used borax powder too to help dry things. I usually don't do that because it's a little more corrosive, but just letting them air dry, or you know, putting them in a bucket of sand to let them dry. And then you get two uses out of them, and you get to use them in a cool craft project, and then they last even longer, you know? So it's like, you don't need to just throw them away. Again, I'm all about giving things a second life, so definitely the more you can upcycle things, the better. But you guys know that. So I think with this one, since there are a lot of purple and pink colors, I think these would look good on the side. So I would just glue down a couple of these. And you can use anything, like I think these are really cool. These are some kind of like foxtail flower. So I'll do a couple of those quick. When I am creating, I think it looks nicest if you're using like odd amounts of things. So like use 3 different kinds of flowers, or if it's something really big, use like 5 different kinds of flowers. I kind of like those odd numbers. I just think it looks better. That's just my opinion. You can do whatever you want. This is your project. I am so not used to this hot glue, and it is getting everywhere. It's leaving those weird hot glue trails everywhere, but you get the gist. So I added a couple of little pieces of the dried flowers I stole from my mother, and I think these little foxtail flower things are so cool, so I'm gonna add those. But like I said, anything you find outside, you know, just tie it up in a bunch and hang it upside down to let it dry. And there you go. I mean, again, ask permission if it's, you know, a neighbor that might not be the friendliest, you know, ask permission first. Don't go and just steal all their stuff on them. Okay, we'll fix that a little better later. But anyway, so now it's kind of, I like textures. I really like textures. And so that's why I can just kind of appreciate, you know, the ability to just have something kind of different like this. So in real life, I would add, you know, more flowers going up. I'd probably add a little more for height. I think, again, I would add some colors that would look complementary with this. So like with the stick, I use blue because the sky background was blue. And then this the center of the flower is yellow, so I would probably add some yellow. And I just think that would all really look cohesive with my project, with the finished project. So I'll keep working on that at a later time. Again, we don't have, like, I don't want to keep you here till midnight tonight. Again, what else are we doing, right? Everything's closed. We might as well be doing this till midnight. Okay, so this is about what we would have. And then I thought it would be cool to add some more textured elements and some kind of, you know, quirky 3D 4-dimensional type effects. So I have these little hummingbirds. By the way, I don't do a lot of whimsical stuff. I'm more of a dark art, dark interior type person. So I don't do a ton of whimsical things like this. So this is kind of out of the box for me. But I do appreciate cute little things. And I was either at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, I can't remember. I think this came from Hobby Lobby. And they had a little pack of hummingbirds. It was like a 3-pack with the coupon, it was like $5. And aren't these the cutest things ever? And because we're dealing with pollinators here, you know, with the moth, I thought it might be fun to keep with that little pollinator theme and add a little hummingbird. So you could wrap this around that stick at the top or whatever, but I thought a hummingbird might be fun. Or you could, again, because I'm all about using things that you already have, you could cut a butterfly out of some paper, like in a book or, you know, whatever. Cut out a little butterfly. You could even make your own butterfly or thing. And, you know, you might want to add that somewhere. Also, Dollar Tree, I think it is, has butterflies like this. They're 2 for $1. And so, I mean, this might be cool. Again, if you are going to use a pop-up, you know, be conscious of where it opens, because you don't want to, like, put your butterfly there and then you can't open it. So, anyway, so that's the first project. So, pretty easy. Again, you can do whatever you want. That's just a little example that I gave you, using a pop-up children's book. So, moving on. I'm running out of space here. I was actually going to stream this from my back porch, but it's 80 degrees here and I was not ready for that. So I was like, wow, it is sunny. I'm staying inside. I was visiting my family in Wisconsin, which I know you're not supposed to do. You're not supposed to travel. But I thought, heck, we all are just sitting around doing nothing. So I went to visit them and it was like 46 degrees the whole time I was there. And now I come back home here to North Carolina and it's 80 degrees today. So, whew, wasn't ready for that. Okay, so this is the second example. So, I'm going to show you something kind of fun that I think the first time I did this, I was like 8 years old. So I'm going to show you a little thing that you can do that might look cute to put inside your frame. You can put anything inside the frame, or like I said, again, nothing at all. It's up to you. I have a few examples, and then I'll show you the artsy example that I thought of. So I'll use this just as an example because it's empty. So any random things that you found, like, okay, so I went to an antique mall and I found these really cool little cards, and it's from this brand called Players Cigarettes. I don't know, must be from a while ago. I don't remember Players Cigarettes, but I thought, you know, that might be something cool to put in there. Like anything that just strikes your interest. I mean, this little cute bird on that little Players Cigarette thing. I mean, who even knew cigarettes had things like that? Not that I'm condoning cigarettes. I'm just saying, back in the day, they had some really cool little things. So if you're at an antique mall and you find something neat that strikes you, you know, buy it and use it in a cool project like this. You could also use, you know, some handmade art, obviously. So I have this little colored pencil rabbit. So, you know, that might be something fun to do. And this was something my friend Maria made, and she is a friend of Mooresville Arts, so you probably know Maria, but she painted these little mushrooms, which are cute. Again, going with the nature theme. I mean, this is kind of what all of this has in common. You know, the birds, the rabbit, the mushrooms. If you wanted something plain for the background, like with my example here, you know, I had used the little book page. But you can, I have this paper that I got, and it's that paper that has seeds in it and it can be planted. So any kind of little funky paper or a postcard, you know, if you, back when we were able to travel. Sorry guys. I was supposed to be in Costa Rica this week, so I'm a little angry about it. Can you tell? It's fine though, it's fine. So this little postcard, you know, whatever, be creative. You can even put a photo in it, obviously. It's a picture frame. So what you would do is put something in there, and then, you know, we'll embellish the frame. So one idea that I had, if none of those ideas strike you, you can do something that I did back in the day when I was like 7 or 8. And I used rubbing alcohol and food coloring, and I made a little creation. And that's what we're going to do today. So this is what it'll look like. Hopefully you can see it. I can't tell what's going on. So you'll take what you'll need to make this, to put behind your frame. I just use a baking dish, because it can get kind of messy. And then I have a page out of a book. Again, don't just grab any book page. Ask first. It might be the libraries, and that wouldn't be good. So then you'll pour in a little bit of rubbing alcohol. So I put the book page just into the into this, and then I started pouring some rubbing alcohol in there, and this is what helps move. It's like alcohol inks, you know, this is what helps move the food coloring. But again, this is all something that we have at home. Chances are you have food coloring and rubbing alcohol and you know, a baking dish, and that's all you need. So I coated the book page with the rubbing alcohol. Let me put the cap on. That could be disastrous. And then I got a bunch of colors. And again, in keeping with the theme, you know, where I said that I like to, like when I'm putting dried botanicals on things, I like to use odd number amounts, like 3 different kinds of flowers or 5 different kinds of flowers. And I like to do that with my ink too. So I'm going to use a blue and a red and a violet. And so you'll just drop a few colors on that alcohol soaked paper. And you don't need to use a book page. You know, you could use just regular copy paper. So I have violet and blue and red. And then here is where you might also want a pair of like tongs or a glove, because what you're gonna do, so you can see this, and now how all the little food colorings are getting all messy, and just let them kind of fall wherever they fall. So I think that's pretty good. And then what you would do, usually what I do at home is I string up a piece of string like outside on a tree, because this is kind of messy. You can do it over your sink, but when the stuff starts to drip down and it'll get in the sink, I'm afraid it will stain it. My sink is black, so it doesn't matter. But you know, if you have a stainless one or like an almond colored sink, that would really ruin things. So I do this outside, and I just put a string like between two trees, and I put a little paper clip between it, and then I pick up my book page and I just paper clip it. Whoops. Of course it doesn't work during my live feed. Anyway, you paper clip it like so and just let it air dry. And this air dries pretty quickly because you know, it is like the alcohol ink stuff, so it should be dry within just a few hours. And then what you'll be left with is, like I said, something like this that you can put in your frame, and then you would embellish all around it. So just to show you my example again, I just took the old frame and a book page. Now this book page doesn't have the little color dye in it, but just adding, you know, little dried flowers, pressed flowers. And I guess I should mention that too. Like I said, if you are going out and collecting your own stuff, 4-leaf clovers are good. You know, any kind of little pansies, ferns, dry really nicely. And what I usually do is I take a big heavy book, open it up to the middle, I put a Kleenex down, and then I put like the fern or the 4-leaf clover down, and then, you know, obviously you close the book. That's just the easiest way I have found to press flowers and things. Don't use paper towels because they have those, well, here's a perfect example. I have this paper towel. It has paint on it, but you get the idea. It has these raised, see those raised bumps on the paper towel? And that will transfer into your flower petal. So don't ever use paper towels. If you're gonna press things, just use the plain paper or use a Kleenex or something, and then just let it sit for, I mean, I kind of let mine go for a long time, like 2 or 3 weeks, and then you'll be able to use it. So again, we have the flowers, butterfly, and then whatever you want to put as your embellishment in the corner. I use some moss. I used a little piece of lichen, and then I used these dried roses. And like I said, I spoke about drying your flowers at home. I went to Trader Joe's and I got a big bunch of spray roses for like $5, and I split them up into like 2 or 3 handfuls and then air dried them upside down. So that's what I used to create this. And then I also have little paper butterflies. So that is the second project. And then, I think I went over everything. Last but not least, I'm going to try to put my food coloring away so it doesn't spill. Last but not least, we had our big stuff, our little natural history thing that we found. Stuff that we found outside. So, again, with the frames. I feel like I've talked a lot about frames today, but it's so much fun to go hunting for these things and see what you find. And this I just found at a garage sale, and to a person who didn't know any better, they might just think it's garbage. But to me, I think it's a treasure, and this is why. So this is just a plastic frame. It doesn't have any glass in it, and you can see that there's some kind of picture. I might be able to show you. So it's like coming off, like, I don't know, you can peel it off. So really there's like nothing you could put in here, or so you may think. So what I would do with this, also let me tell you another negative about this frame, and it's the reason why someone may think it's garbage, is you can't put anything else in here. Okay, so do you see with the back, like you can't take the back off and put anything in it. It's basically like a pointless piece of garbage. So, but to me, again, I think it's great. So what I would do is spray paint it, spray paint the whole entire thing. So I might try to peel off some more of this, but again, it's not really necessary. But I would spray paint the whole entire thing, and you can see with this frame, that's exactly what I did. You can see this is the glass, and I spray painted the glass and everything, and it's just all glossy black. Because the reason why I did this was the back was going to be too hard to take off, and I didn't really want the picture that was in underneath the glass anyway. So I just said, hey, it hangs fine. The frame is gorgeous. I'm just going to spray paint the whole freaking thing, you know? And so that's what I did. But you could, if you really wanted, now I lost my little examples. Well, I don't know where they are. You could, if you wanted, you could glue down something on top of this, and then like Mod Podge it over. And I've done that too. I've taken, like, there was some old book from like 1956. It was a Reader's Digest gardening tip, and it was like a book this big. And so I cut pages out of it, and I Mod Podged the page down, and it was a book about mushrooms. And so the whole background was a page out of a book that had mushrooms on it. And then I embellished it with little pieces of mushrooms and stuff. So you can do something like that, or you can just go crazy like I did and just add random things to it. So what I would suggest with this one, again, is just spray painting the whole thing, let it dry overnight, and then you can start adding your found object items. I had some examples. Let me grab them. So with these things, you do want to follow Leave No Trace principles. Leave No Trace is this code of ethics that basically says leave things where you found it, and especially on like public land or national land, like you don't want to go steal specimens and things that you find because it's actually illegal. But you know, my family has property, like I mentioned, in Wisconsin, and so you can just find these types of things all day, and so that's where I source them from. So all of my stuff is ethically sourced. So you just want to be careful about, you know, not taking too much or doing something like that. One of the things I love to go hiking for and look for are antler sheds. So male deer, whitetail bucks, they lose and regrow their antlers every single year. So they start growing them in the spring. The growth stops at about August, September, and then they'll shed their antlers. They'll just fall right off in February. And so it's kind of fun to go hiking and try to look for these kinds of things. By the way, these antlers can grow up to a ½ inch a day. I thought like just kudzu vine would do that. No, antlers can too. It's like the fastest growing, it's the fastest growing, I think, thing that a mammal has. So, anyway, I don't know how I got off on that tangent. But what you would want to do is glue down your heavy things first. So this is something I would definitely consider a heavy thing. And if this was, you know, ready to go, if it was spray painted, I think it would look pretty cool right there. So you'd glue that down. Like I said, I prefer the E6000. and then just kind of continue adding on from there. So like this is a really cool piece of bark. You know, maybe just setting that there. You could add something like a little wasp nest. And now's the time to collect things because there won't be a wasp in it. In another week, who knows, with the way this weather is. Adding, you know, maybe a little stone or something, and just getting creative with it. You know, a mushroom, little piece of lichen or turkey tail, mushroom. This is some cool bark that I found. So you would just layer, these little sticky balls are kind of fun to use. I've got feathers, so I have pet chickens, so I have a bunch of feathers, and you might want to put some feathers on. Seashells. I mean, who hasn't gone on a trip to the beach, right? So any little seashells you could glue on. Another thing is, you know how I like my spray paint. So finding little pine cones, and like I've spray painted mine black. You could do any color. So again, that just adds a whole different kind of concept. One thing I would recommend, if you are going to do this, and like I said, I mean, you saw the finished product. You know, I had blown out some quail eggs, and I actually used the yolk and everything in an omelet, and then I glued the quail eggs onto the corner. I found a little butterfly. It was on a sidewalk. Put that on there. So whatever you find. Also, check your spice cabinet. I mean, you might have some cinnamon sticks, or like this is that star anise or whatever it's called. It smells like the black licorice, and you know, you might be able, I mean, that would be kind of a cool thing to do. So get creative, hunt around for this stuff. My favorite thing, like I said, is rocks, lichen, moss. If you do find something, my tip to you would be to bake it in the oven at 200 degrees for like 20 minutes. I got something, it was similar to this. So it was a stick, and it had like this curly lichen on it, and there were ants underneath it, and I didn't know there were ants inside. And so like the next day I had an ant infestation. Not good. So if you do bake it in the oven, just put it on a cookie sheet, and like I said, about 200 degrees for about 20 minutes, and that would get rid of any of the little icky things, because it, you know, that's one of the drawback to using natural items. Also, you know, it may take a while to dry your flowers. It might take a while to press your flowers or your ferns or your four-leaf clovers, whatever. So this might not all be accomplished in one day. So keep that in mind too. And then again, following leave no trace principles and things like that. You don't want to, you know, take everything out of the area, and definitely things like snail shells or seashells, you know, checking inside, making sure there's not a live animal in it, and if it is, putting it back. But anyway, so that's about it. I hope that you enjoyed my little live feed that I did for you today. The live demo, like I said, it's pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions, you can definitely send me a direct message to the Fern, the Snail, and the Wren. That's my Facebook page. Or again, I'm also on Instagram too, same name, Fern, Snail, Wren. So anyway, hope you enjoyed. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday and have a wonderful weekend. I really suggest getting out there, take a little bucket, and go and collect you some pine cones. Thank you, everybody. Bye.